All right, we are live. So far, we don't have anyone in yet, but yeah, we are live.
Yeah, that's fine. I think Malaysian time, I always sometimes bring it until 8:05. I mean, 5 minutes after.
Yeah, correct. I
People will
usually
be
start
trickling
after
in.
5 minutes. Yeah. So if you see now live session, basically the room expiration, it changed to 2 hours.
Okay.
So not to
So
worry
I
about
just,
that.
I just need to make sure I don't exceed that, lah, right?
Yeah, it's cool. So basically, you have a benchmark here to basically time yourself. Okay, we have one live attendees. Hi everybody. Hi Kevin. Hi Douglas. Hi Badrul. We are live, so just waiting for the rest to join in. So if you can hear me, and I have Harit here as well, so I'll basically go through with him his profile later on. So if you can hear us, just drop in the chat box so that we know it's loud and clear. And if it's not clear, then there's some technical issue that we have to arrange accordingly.
Hi, Badrul.
Hi, Badrul. Hi, Q. So I assume that you guys can hear us clearly.
Looks like it.
Yes, should be. Hi, Badrul. Hi. Just to check, whether are you able to hear us? If you can hear, just drop a yes in the chat box. All right, cool. Thank you. Thanks for the response. Hi, everybody. We'll basically wait for the rest to join in. Probably in a couple of minutes' time, we can kickstart. Right. So we have a very special guest here today. So it's a very good opportunity that you guys are in, and yeah, it'll be a very interesting and fun webinar session today.
If you guys don't mind sharing, you can let us know whether you're listening in from your office or from your home. I'm very curious to find out.
Yeah, correct. I would like to find out as well. Or probably you guys are driving back to your respective residential area. So and you guys are listening while driving. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. All right, thanks, Lynn. That's good to know. So what about the rest? Office, driving back and listening through the phone or just at home? Oh, thanks, Kevin. Thank you so much for the reply. That's nice.
It's nice to have a sweet home.
Yeah. That's the best place for you to basically be in at this current point of time. All right, so let me just see the rest. Are they in? So okay, we'll just give them some time to. We still have some who are not in yet, so we'll just give them some time. Okay. For your information, if you guys are new to this webinar session, all right. This is our social media account. And if you guys have not been following us, please do so. We are in Facebook, we are in Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Telegram. So feel free to join our channel in Telegram and YouTube. So, and if you guys are unfamiliar with Ethereum and you guys are not sure what Etherscans or ETHKL does, so yeah, we have a very special guest here today. He will basically cover every aspect of Angle, but I'm not sure whether we're going to cover, do we have enough time to basically cover everything about Ethereum, but I'm sure every important aspect of Ethereum can be covered in today's session with Harit here today. Right. Let me just see. So okay, yeah, we will kickstart sharp at 5:35. So those who are joining us late, so basically, if they want to know anything, they can always ask during the Q&A session. So just give them 1 more minute to see whether they're able to join in before we start. Okay, so all right, I'll just kickstart. I'll just go through with you guys on some campaign tokenized are performing, having now. All right, so right, as I said, this is our social media account. If you guys have not been following us, please do so. We are in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Telegram as well. So we basically put up all the updates and morning breakfast updates, everything in our social media platform. All right, so today's topic is all about Ethereum, fundamental perspective. Okay, and if you guys are new, I'm Surin, the key account manager for Tokenized Malaysia, and I have here today Mr. Harit from Etherscan, our guest speaker for today. Privileged to have him in with us today to share a little, pretty much about Ethereum. So, okay, this is what usually I do. I will basically go through with you guys on some of the price update on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple. All right. So as at 4 p.m., Bitcoin is basically up by 0.13% compared to yesterday. So the price on our platform is basically 39,526 ringgit. Okay. Ethereum is doing 1031. Day to day, it's up by 0.36%. Ripple XRP 0.854. Day to day is up by 0.66%. Okay, so I'm sure some of you guys are aware of the campaign, the ongoing campaign organized by Tokenized Malaysia. So let me just give you a brief about what's happening. All right. So last week we already have our first winner on guess Ethereum price content on Facebook. All right. So the winner walk away with 0.5 ETH. All right. So what you guys have to do is try to search about this posting in our Facebook page. All right. Drop in your comment on what do you think is going to be the Ethereum price on the 24th of July. All right. So 12 p.m., 24th July. What's the price going to be for Ethereum on 24th July, 12 p.m. Right. So the earliest participant who basically commented or closest to the decimal point will be crowned as the winner. All right. So let's say if we have 5 people who basically commented that particular price, but we will definitely take the earliest to comment on this FB campaign. So we have basically launched it yesterday. This is the second round. So the first round we already have a winner, where the closing price for Ethereum on the 10th of July, 12 p.m. was 1026. So basically, we had 2 participants who basically commented 1025, and we took the earliest who commented 2 hours earlier compared to the second person. So yeah, he walked away with 0.5 worth of Ethereum. For me, we just want to give back to the community. We want to give back to our client, and it's very easy. All right, just drop your comment. what do you think the price is going to be for Ethereum on the 24th July, 12 p.m.? Okay, so this is the second campaign which is ongoing since 1st July, all right? Sorry, since 21st June, 27 June. So we are rewarding those who are also trading on our platform, all right? So what you just need to do is trade a minimum of 300 ringgit per transaction. So if you have 10 transaction of minimum 300 ringgit, so basically we will give you 10 entries form to fill up. And what is your guessing price for Ethereum on the 31st July? On the 30th July, 12 p.m. as well. So the contest will end on 29 July, sharp 12 a.m. We will basically close, all right? And the winner will basically walk away with 1 Ethereum. That is a lot of money, I would say, all right? And another condition is that you just have to like or follow any of tokenized exchange social medias. You don't need to share any of our posting. You just need to like our page. If you want to win, if you want to walk away with 1 Ethereum, feel free to trade minimum of 300 ringgit on our trading platform, and you have the chance to walk away with 1 Ethereum. So all the terms conditions are basically on our social media. We do also email to all our client base on the ongoing campaigns. So basically, terms and conditions are also available in your email, received email. Okay, so I basically have covered the terms and condition. All right, so basically, okay, and we have Harit here today. Let me just give you a brief profile of Mr. Harit here. He manages the community of Etherscan, the leading blog explorer for Ethereum, and organized Ethereum Malaysia, a meetup group for Ethereum community. All right. Previously, he led data analytics and launched a $5 million token sale at Hello Gold. His prior experience includes Great Eastern Life and BFM 89.9. Harit graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Science in Actual Science from University of Wisconsin, Clare. All right. So correct me if I'm wrong. The pronunciation is a bit tough over there, Harit. All right. So yeah, I present you Harit. Harit, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Surin. I'm just gonna turn my screen share on quick so I can show my slide. Let's just go entire screen. Okay. Let me know if you can't see my screen. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead.
It's clear. Yeah.
All right. So thanks, Surin. I'll do a quick, well, relatively quick, probably might still take some time, introduction to Ethereum. Subtitled Into a Rabbit Hole of Money, Decentralization, and Smart Contracts. So to get a show of hands, and Surin, maybe you can tell me how many people have answered. And because it's a remote call, so instead of raising your hands, just put 1 if you've only heard of Bitcoin, 2 if you know the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain, 3 if you have a portfolio, 4 if you have a blockchain wallet, and 5 if you've ever used a smart contract. So yeah, feel free to type.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys can just drop in the chat box based on what Harit explained. Like 1, have you heard of Bitcoin? You can always drop 2 on the chat box if you know what Bitcoin from blockchain. 3 if you have a crypto portfolio. 4 if you have a blockchain wallet, and 5 if you ever use a smart contract. So yeah, guys, at least we know what are the category of client that audience that we are basically presenting today. So it helps Mr. Harit here to basically pace himself in terms of explanation on the presentation today.
Yeah, so I'm just going to continue on, and soon you can just chip in later on the numbers.
No problem. All right.
Yeah, so to do a quick introduction, as Surin said earlier, I work at Etherscan. I handle community here. Before this, I worked at Hello Gold, which is a fintech startup that lets you buy and sell gold. And for the last 2 years, I've been running Ethereum Malaysia, which is a meetup group for Ethereum enthusiasts. We try and hold a meetup once a month on the first Thursday of the month. With MCO, we've been doing it online over Zoom. Once it's more safe to do it in person, we will reopen the meetups in person and you can join us. Our topics are generally on the technology and use cases side of Ethereum, not so much on the how to make money. So a quick overview of what I'll be covering. First is some preamble on what money and what decentralization is. And then some features of a blockchain, which is common for Bitcoin. If you guys are very familiar with Bitcoin already, I might just breeze through that very quickly. Then I walk through Ethereum, what it is and what use cases are, and some other elements at the end. Why I say rabbit hole is if you've ever seen or read Alice in the Wonderland, you know that she falls into this rabbit hole and she enters this world that is full of crazy new things that she's never heard of. That experience is often what a lot of people feel when they enter the crypto space. You see all kinds of new stuff which you barely understand, and you spend hours into the late night trying to read up this Medium article or that website or white paper. And before you know it, you're deep into this hole and almost impossible to get back out of. And before I go into the main topic itself, just to clarify certain things. So the first thing, for those of you who didn't know what the difference is between Bitcoin and blockchain, a good way to understand the difference is if you can think of a Venn diagram. So you think of the largest set as distributed ledger technology. A blockchain is a subset of that, and Bitcoin is a subset of blockchain. And to give another analogy is if you can imagine transportation as the sort of largest set, and then within transportation, you have driving using a car. And between all the many cars, there is the Toyota brand or type of car. So you think of Bitcoin as one type of blockchain and blockchain as one type of distributed ledger technology. People also ask what's the difference between these two and cryptocurrency. So the term cryptocurrency is actually also a subset in itself. The larger grouping is what's called a crypto asset. And within crypto assets, you have many different things, such as a crypto token. You can imagine this like, if you go to Genting and you get the token to spend, or at your kids' sports day in school and you get a voucher and you can only spend that voucher to get certain items at the stalls. A crypto security is a token that represents, let's say, a company share. And then there is a cryptocurrency, which is a token that represents a currency, such as Bitcoin. Another thing to note when it comes to Bitcoin is that there's also Bitcoin with a capital B, which is the Bitcoin technology in itself, and then Bitcoin, the currency or the unit of the currency. And you think back to the car analogy, for the car to move, you need to have fuel to be able to drive it. So the Bitcoin currency is the fuel for you to be able to drive the Bitcoin car. I hope that makes sense. If there's any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and Suren can let me know. That's just a quick clarification of common terms that people use. Now, we first start talking about money because before you can talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum, you first have to really understand what money is. And if you go to your economics course in uni, the common things that you learn of is that money has to be a store of value, it has to be a unit of account, and a medium of exchange. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you can just go on Wikipedia. But the basic main thing that I'd like everyone to know is that money, on top of these three, which is commonly known, has to have a limited supply. It has to be scarce. If it's something that can be printed into infinity, then it sort of reduces the application of money. And very importantly is that money is not a physical item. It's just a representation of something that has value. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So if anyone's watched the Game of Thrones, there's one quote that I like to paraphrase where it said that value resides where men believe it resides. It's not real. You can't touch it. You can't see it or feel it. But it's based on people's belief. in whether it exists or not. And explaining it a bit more. So when people talk about money, what comes to your head is typically your ringgit or US dollar notes. For those of some people, even in Vietnam or who are from an older generation, may remember it as gold coins. And the millennials out of us will just know it as some digit that you see on the screen. It's just some numbers on the screen. This is what people commonly know as money, but there are also some other examples that are not as commonly known. So, for example, if you go to prison, then you can use cigarettes as a form of money. Kids at the playground can use Pokemon game cards to trade with each other and get other goods or services. And people in many cultures from hundreds of years ago would use things like seashells as their form of money. So this shows that just because you're familiar with money as a piece of paper or as some digital e-wallet, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is what money is. That's just the representation that is currently being used. You can also use cigarettes as representations and many other things as well. And to give a very kind of like stark example for people to understand, this is the Bolivar, which is the currency of Venezuela. It's been getting inflation in the millions of percentages, such that the value of one Bolivar has diminished extremely, and that the people there don't see a value for the piece of paper, and they would much rather use it for origami handbags or draw a cartoon on it. And by just drawing a cartoon on this piece of paper, the value of that piece of paper is higher than what you would typically know as one ringgit or one bolivar, one unit of your national currency. And before you tell me that this is some example from some distant country, there's actually an example right here in Malaysia. For those of you who are old enough, or if you have any family members who are old enough, and you can check with them, there used to be something called the duit pisang, which is the currency used back in Malaysia when the Japanese military was occupying us. And at that point in time, you couldn't use any other money because only the Japanese issued dollar. It's called duit pisang because the $10 note has a picture of a banana or a pisang. You can only use this to transact with each other. Now imagine you were a farmer back then, in those times, and you wake up one day and you see that the Japanese military has just left. They lost the war, they left Malaysia, and they went back to their home country. Now imagine you've been saving a bunch of these duit pisang. You have maybe a couple hundred units of them, so that you can save, you can buy some food for your family, some transportation, some materials. But when you wake up, you see that the Japanese have gone, and all this bunch of money that you've been saving has completely disappeared in value out of thin air, because now nobody wants to use the Japanese money anymore. They would much rather use the British money or some other version of money. And at that point in time, all of that savings that you've had suddenly disappears, even though that piece of paper still exists. It's still in your hand. But because the belief of the people at that time, the society, have shifted away from Japanese dollars into British pounds, then that value has disappeared. So I hope this makes sense, that money isn't a physical item that you hold. It exists in the shared belief that we have as human beings. It's what commonly is used is that it's a shared fiction, a social fiction, or a shared story. For those of you who would like to check out, there's a website called WTFhappened in1971.com, and you can see official statistics from the US government to show how money how many metrics have changed completely in value from 1971, when the US government shifted from having their currency being backed by gold into being something that is completely backed by just government promises or fiat money. You will see a very clear difference in the trend between, for example, salaries and cost of goods, just when at that point in time, they shifted from being backed by gold into being backed by government promises. And a bit of crypto history, the very first Bitcoin that was mined by Satoshi Nakamoto, he actually put in a message that said, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. And Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies that happened since then has been a movement to counter this this control, this huge inflation that has been created by governments around the world, and to have a form of money that is not limited to a particular nation state or government, but it can be owned by people in a decentralized way from around the world. Now, I've talked about money. The second thing that I want to talk about is decentralization. And that sounds like one of these jargon that is very confusing and complex, but hopefully these examples can make it a bit more clear to you. For those of you who are Muslim, you'll know that the Quran isn't this book that fell out of the sky. It's a bunch of verses that was memorized by thousands of people within the community at that time, such that it's memorized in complete order, in complete form. And so if Harith was to go up there and say, hey, I just want to add one verse that says, Harith is handsome. And maybe I can convince Surin, I can bribe him. And maybe I can find Badrul and bribe Badrul as well. But if there are thousands of people, it becomes practically impossible for me to be able to bribe every single one of you to add just that one short line that says Harith is handsome. And the more people there are that memorize everything in the exact same version, the difficulty for me becomes exponentially harder to be able to bribe. Another example is that of the wedding. So we like to imagine weddings as this, dream come true, happy ever after kind of occasion, which is true. But another more practical purpose of societies creating weddings is that it allows us to fact check each other, so that if Surin had a wedding last week with a lovely lady, and next week I find him walking around in the neighboring village with another lady who is not the person that he married, and holding hands and being all romantic, then I can and if I was at the wedding, I can raise a flag to the community that says, hey, Surin's not acting in a behavior that is beneficial for our society. It's going to create a lot of friction. So I can be a witness to help make sure that Surin and other people within the community are behaving in the way that is right. If there was only Surin and his wife and the priest or rabbi or imam that officiated the wedding, then the witnesses are not there. And if the priest wasn't there to see, or if he can be bribed by Surin, then there is much higher chances of him getting away with his infidelity. But if there are 200 people that are attending the wedding, then there is much less chance of him getting away with that kind of behavior. The third example, the more modern example, is that of Google Sheets or Google Docs. If you've ever done any college project or any work that required you to use Microsoft Office, you'll know the big difference between using Google Docs and Office. Because if you use, let's say, Microsoft Word, you have to write something, save it, make sure the name is formatted right, and then you can ask your teammate to make his edits into the document afterwards. And if your teammate then deletes what you wrote, it gets very difficult to find who deleted what and what was the actual canonical version. If you were to use Google Docs, then you can edit everything in real time. If someone deletes what you wrote, you can see who deleted it in real time. and you can even quickly revise that error. And how it works is that Google has a bunch of servers around the world, and when you're editing something, it goes instead of to your computer, that change is made on the cloud on one of Google's many servers, and your friend who can be even across the world can be editing that same document, and because it's not being edited on his or her laptop and it's done on the Google servers, can be done simultaneously and automatically. And that's an example also of decentralization, even if it's not full decentralization, because you're still relying on Google to trust Google to do things in the right way. But at least it diminishes this need to trust that each other are making changes in the way that is useful for everyone else.
So, Harry, is it fair for me to say decentralization, it's basically more transparent compared to traditional fiat balance or fiat money?
Yeah, you could say that. In the end, it depends on the people involved. So in the general case, it makes it much easier to be transparent, because your bank could be completely trustworthy. They could be, people that are doing things professionally and not taking advantage of you or cheating the system in any way. But there could be cases where that bank isn't trustworthy. So if you look at central banks of countries such as Venezuela, Zimbabwe, the recent one is Lebanon, and how they've arguably abused their power to print limitless amounts of new currency, and therefore reduce the value of your own currency that you're holding in your hand.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So if you combine money and decentralization, then you get what Bitcoin is, because all Bitcoin is at a large sort of overall level is that it's decentralized money. It's money that's not controlled by a single or a few different entities. And why do I mention Bitcoin? So even though it's an Ethereum talk, because without understanding what Bitcoin is and what decentralized money is, then it's much harder for you to appreciate the difference with Ethereum. So going through some features of blockchain, which applies both for Bitcoin and Ethereum. As I said earlier, it's a decentralized form of money. What does that mean exactly? So if you think of how in the current financial system, usually if you want to transfer something to someone else, it has to go through a bank. So let's say Suren's working in the US and I'm staying here and I want to transfer to him, I have to go through a third party. It could be a bank, it could be some sort of money changer, it could be like a human agent that carries the cash around, but it always has to be a third party. Because if I were to give money to Suren without a third party, let's say I mail it to him, he can then tell me, oh, sorry, I never received it. The mail didn't reach my house. So can you please resend that money? And I keep resending it to him 3-4 times. And all the while he's just collecting my money for free. And I don't know of any way whether the money actually reached Suren or not. Or I could do the opposite, right? I can like say I've sent when I've never sent. And Suren's like, what do you mean? I'm still waiting for this money. So there's a good reason for having a third party for both parties to trust. But imagine a system now with the bunch of us that's in this call right now. We could literally create our own form of money. Maybe just having a notebook and where we write down entries, or just a simple WhatsApp group where, for example, if I wanted to send money to Kevin, before I can send money, all of us in this group have to write it down in our notebooks. You can imagine a buku 555. You can like write it down and say that, okay, Harith's balance goes down by 10, Kevin's balance goes up by 10. And only when everybody has approved and said, yes, okay, Harith's balance is enough, then that transaction goes through. And then other people can do transactions as well. But you can very quickly see how this becomes impractical, right? So even if it was only 3 people, like we have to spend like a lot of our time like on our screen, just like typing and calculating whether the numbers balance out or not. And when there's 20 people, 100 people, 1 million people, the difficulty again becomes exponentially harder. And that's why this kind of money hasn't really worked before. But imagine if this, instead of human beings doing the calculation, it's computers. If it may still sound a bit scary, but if you imagine how computers now you can play multiplayer online massive games, you can stream Netflix on your small phone. Computers have a lot of power, and just updating an entry in a ledger is very simple for them to do. And the key thing to realize is that the code that is running on these computers is open source. And what that means is that it's the exact same version, it's transparent. I can see that you're running this exact version of the code, and someone across the world is also using the exact same version. And I'm not trusting that, let's say, Facebook is holding this code behind the curtains, and they can change it however way they like. It's out there in public. Anyone can review it as long as they understand the programming language. And if there's something that's off, they can highlight it very quickly. And in that way, it becomes trust minimized. It's similar to the decentralization examples earlier. When there are many people who are fact-checking each other, it gets very difficult for one entity or a few entities to cheat everybody else in the system. So some common features of a blockchain. So the first one is the block explorer. And the key thing to understand when I mention block explorer is that blockchains are not anonymous. So if you've ever heard about how Bitcoin or Ethereum is like criminals are the ones that's using it to like sell drugs or sell pornography. If you were one of those people, I would suggest you think twice, because it's not anonymous, and in some ways it's even less anonymous than the normal financial system. People can literally search your transactions and find who you are from your transactions, and then all your criminal activities will be exposed. So what do I mean by that? Just to highlight that, so Etherscan is a block explorer for the Ethereum blockchain, and this is a screenshot from the website. But other block explorers will have similar interfaces as well. So if you imagine your bank account, you can open it, you can see your balance, you can see your transaction history. So a block explorer is like a bank account, but instead of just your own account, you can search anyone's account in the entire world, as long as you know their address. So if you can see the address in the top left here, it's in some random string that you can't decide. So when you create a wallet, you get given this random string, and your only saving grace is that I wouldn't know what your address is, just like that. So if your name is Suren, I wouldn't know that your address is called Suren. It will be some random string, and so I can't simply enter your name to find your address. So you do have some privacy there.
Yeah. All right.
Imagine if you have actually transferred any Ethereum to me. I can see on my own account page, I can see that the address that was sent to me and that you tell me was sent by you on this day with this amount, I can very confidently know that the address that sent that amount to me is somehow related to you. And if I then open that account page and I can see the transaction history of that account, then I can trace through all these other transactions. If I know the owners of these other addresses, I can make a lot of deductions as to what's happening. And so that privacy becomes a lot less existing for someone like you. And that's actually what governments around the world or regulators around the world have been doing. They've been tracing many of these transactions. And so if you think you're a criminal and you can get away with these transactions, I would suggest you to think twice.
Yeah.
So another analogy to think of a block explorer is if you can imagine a library. And in this library, you walk up to the librarian and you ask her, you want to see the contents of the book on shelf 17A. And the librarian will take the book and bring it up to the desk and show it to you. And you can see all of the contents, regardless of who owns the book or what the book says. And you can ask for any book on any shelf, and the librarian will never block you from doing that. They will easily show you everything that's in there. There's no secrets kept hidden. One thing to note is that the Block Explorer is specific for a blockchain. So a Bitcoin Explorer will only show you the books inside the Bitcoin library, whereas an Ethereum library will only show the books inside the Ethereum library. So that's one analogy to think of explorers. So then very closely related to an explorer is a wallet. So a wallet is this term that is a bit unfortunately named because it's not a wallet like how you imagine putting one in your pockets. A better analogy for it is like a safety deposit box. So if you can imagine going up to a vault where you have these boxes that you own, you can put all your important items, your berlian, your jewelry necklace, and store it in there. And you lock it and you take back the key. So this safety deposit box exists in the cloud, online, in the internet. And so what your wallet is the key to open that safety deposit box. And so if you have any kind of wallet, which I'll explain later, and you lose it, you don't have to worry of you losing all your balance immediately. What you have lost is essentially the key. If you've done a backup of the key somewhere else, then you can take that backup and open your safety deposit box using this other key. So back to the library analogy. In this case, when you go up to the librarian and you tell her you want to see the book on 17A, if you hold a wallet that owns that shelf 17A, you can tell the librarian, I want to move this book from 17A to 35B. And the librarian will take it and move it to that shelf. But then if it's already in 35B and you say, actually, no, I changed my mind. I want to move it from 35B to somewhere else. If you don't own the wallet or if you don't own that shelf 35B, then the librarian will not allow you to move that book. Your wallet, so you can only move the contents of that shelf if you own it. And if there's any shelf out there that you don't own, you don't have any rights to move it. So that's the difference between a wallet and using a block explorer. And wallets use this thing called a public key cryptography. So it's fancy technology and wouldn't really want to dwell into it. But some important things to highlight is that so public key cryptography has two elements, a public key and a private key. So public key is like the mailbox to your house. So if you want to buy something on Lazada and you want to get that item shipped to you, you give your address, which in this case is your public key. And so Lazada or whoever the seller is knows that, okay, they have to send this item to your house at this address and they will put it inside your mailbox. The private key, and this is very important to note, is that the private key is both the mailbox and the key to open your mailbox. So that if, and it's not just the key, it's both. So that if you ever give your private key to someone or they find it or they steal it, then it's literally as if you are giving a map to a stranger with an X marks the spot and the key to open the safe that's stored there. And all your belongings, all the stuff that you put in your house, you are essentially giving that guy free reign to just walk up to your door, take the key, open it, and grab everything that's inside and take it out. So it's not just the key, it's both the mailbox and the key to your house. And this fact is a bit scary. It gets a lot of people a bit more paranoid when they enter the crypto space, because if you give it to a wife or to a sibling, and then 10 years later you get divorced, then, and you're not happy with your wife anymore, but if she still has your key, she can literally go in and take everything out and move it to her own new house. And there's nothing you can do to stop her. There's no bank negara, there's no PIDM to help you when cases like that happen. So very important thing to understand is that when it comes to the crypto space, you are your own security. So different kinds of wallets exist. So the first kind is a paper wallet, where you literally go to a website that doesn't store your passwords. You create a wallet and they will print out your wallet details. So you have your address, which is your public key, and your private key, which is what you never want to show anyone. And you never want to even print, like literally print this. You never want to save it in a digital copy. What you want is to literally print this, laminate it, create 2 or 3 different copies and save them in different places, such that if one place gets burned down, then at least you have some backup. But a problem with paper wallets is that it's very annoying to have to carry around, because it literally has your private key. And if you put it in your physical wallet and you carry it around with you, and then if you get robbed or you lose your wallet, then this entire thing, is at risk, right? Like you might have it stolen by someone else. So what's been done is, what's been created is what's called a hardware wallet, where typically they look like USB devices, and you can create backup phrases. These backup phrases you can store at home. The wallet you can carry around with you, and it has a PIN number where if the wallet gets stolen and somebody wants to enter it, they have to be able to enter the PIN number. And so that gives you a layer of security, such that if you get stolen, then you don't have to worry so much. You just go home, find the backup phrase, take all of your money and put it in a new wallet that's clean and safe. And so even if the robber manages to break through your PIN code at some point, they won't be able to get anything because you've had time to move your money somewhere else. And a third version, and this is primarily on Ethereum, not so much on Bitcoin, is what's called the Web3 or smart wallet, where it can be on your computer, on your internet browser, or an app on your phone, and it's tied to your phone, and it's everything is inside there, and you can create all kinds of transactions using just your phone without having to memorize or carry around any private keys or passphrases. Hope that makes sense. If you have any questions on wallets, feel free to stop me and ask. So the third item is mining, and there are a lot of people who like mining because of the monetary reasons of how you can make money. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but more on how it works and why it exists. So the first thing to note is that it uses cryptography, and in this case, hash functions. And what a hash function is that you can put in, like in this case, a simple word like cat or dog, and by entering it into a function, a hash function, it does mathematical functions on top of it that creates a completely nonsensical string of words and numbers. So that when you look at this words and numbers, you won't know that the word that was originally used was cat. And if you change even one word, one alphabet, instead of cat, you say cat, then the result becomes completely different as well. Yeah, so it becomes very difficult for someone to be able to hack, even if they can see the contents of this message. So an analogy to think of that is a snowflake. So you know how snowflakes are unique. No snowflake is similar to another in the world. But if it gets melted into a puddle of water, it becomes a common thing, right? Like water is water. You can't tell the difference between one puddle to another. And so a hash function is as if you can take a puddle of water and turn it back into this unique snowflake that happened before. And that's what hash functions allow you to do. Another analogy is, if you can think of like movie like the Da Vinci Code, where they have a lot of these secret sort of passwords, and only those who know the secret method can understand or decipher the message that is being sent. And why does that matter? Because when it comes to mining, if you go back to the analogy that we had earlier of creating our own form of money between a bunch of us here, if it was just me and Suren that's transacting, let's say I'm paying him, he's paying me, you guys, everybody else who are validating the transactions and making sure it's done properly, there's no incentive, there's no reason for you to do it, right? Because it takes your time. And even if you're not doing it in person, you're using a computer, it takes up your electricity to have to fact check that the transaction is done properly. And so very quickly you'll say, what's the point? I'll just let you guys, between the two of you, run this network. I'm not going to waste my electricity to subsidize your transactions. And then you walk away and disappear. And the beauty of what Satoshi Nakamoto created with Bitcoin is this proof of work. It's an incentive mechanism so that even if you're never making any transactions, but you are helping to validate that the transactions are done correctly, then you stand a chance to win new Bitcoin that gets created. So out of, say, 100 of us, 1 out of 100, each time a new block gets created, will be rewarded with new Bitcoin that has been mined into existence out of thin air. A quick note, your mining reward has both the block reward, which is the new block that gets created, and any transaction fee that people enter so that they can get their transaction prioritized before others. And another beautiful thing that Satoshi Nakamoto created is that the difficulty isn't set, it's adjusted. So that if there are more people that's trying to mine, the difficulty becomes harder, so that how the computers can decipher the hash function to turn it from the unknown string into the word cat that they want to know becomes harder and harder the more computers there are in the space, such that on average the expected new block that gets created is once every 10 minutes for Bitcoin and once every 15 seconds for Ethereum. So if there's less miners, then the difficulty becomes easier, and again the timing of new blocks get reduced back to 10 minutes. So there is a consistency in the creation of new money. As I mentioned earlier, so this relies on a consensus mechanism called proof of work. It just means that you've shown proof that you've been doing work because you've been keeping your computer running to try and decipher the hash functions this whole time. And just to highlight, the word blockchain comes from a block of chains. And so every time a new block gets mined, it gets created out of thin air and it gets added to a chain of blocks that point all the way back to the beginning, such that if you're trying to fake the contents of a block that was 100 blocks ago, then it becomes much more difficult for you to do that, because then you have to be able to hack all the other 99 other blocks that have been created since then. So now that you know mining, another common question people will ask is, how do I buy? And it's kind of, you guys will know the answer because I'm talking to people who are using tokenized as an exchange. But common ways that people use to transact is they can do over the counter, which is just direct. So like between me and Badrul, I can say I want to buy 10 Ethereum for $2,000. And between the two of us, if we agree, then we do the transaction. But over time, humans, as we've done transactions and commerce, we've learned that it's not very practical, because even back in the day, if I have a loaf of bread and you have a piece of chicken, I want to sell my loaf of bread only for instead of a piece of chicken, I want it for a piece of beef. And if I go and find you, you say you don't have beef, you just have chicken. So it becomes very impractical for me to do a transaction. But I can go to a marketplace, and at markets, there are hundreds or thousands of people, and the chances of me finding someone wanting to buy my item for something that they have gets exponentially higher. And exchanges are essentially marketplaces because it groups a lot of people into one place. And so the chances of you finding a token that you're willing to buy or sell at a price that you're happy with becomes much more likely compared to two people trading with each other. So there's two common types of exchanges. One is fiat to crypto and another is crypto to crypto. Fiat to crypto is tokenized as an example. And within that, there's also two different kinds. One is a broker where you trade with the exchange. They tell you the price to buy and sell and you take it or leave it. And then there's the marketplace where the exchange essentially just is hosting the market and there are many people who can buy and sell with each other. Quick note on fiat, if I've been saying that and you guys don't understand, fiat just means your national currency, so like ringgit and US dollar and currencies like that. Commonly, you won't be able to buy this not popular token using your fiat money. In Malaysia, especially, our regulators have only allowed, I believe, 4 cryptocurrencies to be traded for fiat. So it becomes very difficult for you to be able to trade if you want to find that token that is listed as the 100 biggest market cap on CoinGecko, because you won't be able to find it on a fiat crypto exchange. And for you to find that, you have to go to a crypto to crypto exchange, where then you can trade something like Bitcoin or Ethereum for something that's more, less popular. And so certain examples are Binance, Huobi, Kraken, Bittrex. I just want to highlight Binance as an example of how the market has grown tremendously. Was created in the year 2017, I think in September 2017. By the time it was 2018, their revenue for the year 2018 was already larger than the revenue of Deutsche Bank, which is one of the largest banks in the world. And that was 2018. So that just goes to show how the market has grown massively in the last few years. The key thing that I want to highlight is that exchanges are not wallets. So what I mentioned earlier about wallets, exchanges are not that. And to give an example is if you were to go to a currency exchange, you walk up to the shop and you say you want to exchange your ringgit for US dollars. So let's say you have 100 ringgit, you want to take back $25 and you do that transaction. But instead of taking the $25 and putting it into your wallet, what you do is you keep it, you let the currency exchange guy hold on to your $25 and you go back home. Then if tomorrow that exchange gets robbed or gets burned down or the owners run away with the money, then your money is lost or gone. So similarly with crypto exchanges, if you are leaving money with them, then you are trusting them with your money, which goes against the very idea of decentralization, because you don't want to have to trust a third party. You want to be able to just trust yourself. So a common advice that is given to people is that don't hold more than, say, a month's salary in a wallet that is held by an exchange. Take it out and put it into your own personal wallets and learn how to use a personal wallet. And then the exchange, just leave the amount that you are comfortable losing entirely and that you are looking to trade on a frequent basis. A lot of the stories that people talk about how Bitcoin has been hacked revolves around exchanges. It's not Bitcoin itself that has been hacked, but it's more that the exchange has been robbed or hijacked or has had the founders run away with people's money. So analogy again is, think of it like it's not that the ringgit has been hacked and lost value. It's just that that currency exchange that you've been buying your trading your ringgit for dollars for has been burnt down or has run away with your money. That's some common features of blockchain using Bitcoin as an example. Again, any questions, feel free to shoot at me. And here is where we get to the good stuff, at least from my point. So we know that blockchain 1.0 or Bitcoin is decentralized money. What Ethereum does is it combines decentralized money with this thing called an if function to create what's called smart contracts. And again, smart contracts sound like this, very complicated jargon. But if you think about a vending machine, there's no humans involved. There's no magic. You walk up to the machine, you put in, let's say 5 ringgit, and you press Coke. You know that your can of Coca-Cola will come out, and you'll get change of, let's say, 3 ringgit. And there's no humans, there's no magic behind it, but the vending machine knows exactly what to give you, right? So it's actually very smart to know all of that. In the background, all it's doing is if you've used Excel, Microsoft Excel, there is this thing called a conditional statement or an if-then function. So the code in the vending machine is checking if you've put in 5 ringgit and if you've entered, you've pressed that button that represents Coca-Cola, then it will drop a can from the Coca-Cola shelf and it will return 5 minus 2, which is the price of Coke, and give you back 3 ringgit. So it's all coded into the machine using if and then functions. Another example and another buzzword that people like to use on top of blockchain is the Internet of Things. And the common example is that there is this thing called a smart fridge, and it will know that if your eggs are running out in the fridge and it's about time to go buy some new eggs, it will automatically make the order for you at your local, the website of your local grocery store, and have it delivered to your house. But the thing with the smart fridge is that it's still using your traditional modern finance money, your banking system. It still requires you to have a bank account, goes through your credit card, and it still relies on the bank as a trusted third party.
Just a moment, Harit. There's a question. Mr. Ernest, just to confirm, as what Harit has mentioned, okay, there is a beauty. That is a beauty about regulated exchanges is that we are all insured. Insurance company or bank companies we are able to tag with them, so tag along. So that is the beauty about regulated exchanges, that you do not need to worry. If there's any fear about it, we can always confirm with you guys that we are insured by insurance company. So that is the pre-requirement about to be regulated, that you have to show all this paperwork to the regulators that we are all backed up accordingly to the needs of our clients, to the needs of our depositors, to the needs of our traders and investors. So not to worry about that.
Yeah, so definitely for sure, if you're comparing between a regulated exchange and an unregulated exchange, then the risk is much higher if you use an unregulated exchange, because they're not necessarily obliged to follow the government's laws. Whereas if there is a licensed or regulated exchange, and if they don't follow the rules, then the regulators or the government will clamp down on them. And so you have that layer of safety behind you, that that they will have to follow rules if they want to sort of survive. The more like conspiracy theory ones of you out there may still argue that if they are conspiring with the government, then they can still get away with things like that. But I'll leave that for a separate discussion.
There's also a question here, Harit. What is your recommendation private wallets? Bitcoin.com, Exodus.com, Ledger.com. What is your criteria used?
So for me, I'm not a technical person. I look at what other people use and the sort of history of that wallet. So if it's been around for some time, for a few years, and a lot of people have used it, and there's no complaints about the security, then I'm more comfortable. And once you get over that security layer, then you can consider other stuff. And this is for me personally, not necessarily for others. One thing you want to potentially look at is if you can support multiple coins on multiple blockchains. Another is specifically for Ethereum wallets, that it can do a lot of fancy stuff that like the Ethereum wallets aren't really able to do, which I'll go through a bit later. And if you can use it across multiple devices, and some other factors as well. It's not coming to my head right now, but those are some key elements that you want to take note of if you're choosing between wallets. But yes, so on the question on the point I mentioned earlier about using it for certain Ethereum type of transactions, why that is important is that with this thing called a smart contract. So with the example of the fridge earlier, if you use that money, you still have to go through the banking system. Whereas if you are a decentralized person, you want to be able to do things without having to trust the bank or the third party. So what Ethereum does is it combines the decentralized money nature of Bitcoin and the sort of if and then function of the vending machine, and you put it together to create a lot of new use cases. So one way to think of it is if you look at phones, you have your sort of normal, like now old-fashioned handphones, and then there's this big leap towards smartphone, right? So with a mobile phone, the applications are limited. You can call, you can message, you can even go online maybe a few years ago and play some games, but it's very restricted to what's already in the phone. But with the smartphone, with the iPhone, when it was created, there is an iTunes store, and on the iTunes store, you can have apps created by anyone in the world, and those apps can be doing many different things, whether it's game or social network or shopping. Like, it's limitless the amount of things that you can do with a smartphone compared to a mobile phone. So having smart contracts allow you to do many things with cryptocurrencies or blockchain that you weren't able to do without the smart contract capability. And another example, just to explain a Malaysian example of a smart contract, and it's a bit controversial, but controversy sells, so I like to use this example. Recently, with the whole government changes, it's still fresh in our heads. So whenever we've had elections before, maybe not the most recent one because the right team won for a lot of people. I should say for some people. A lot of complaints that were made before was that, there's this blackout. I don't know if I voted for the red team, maybe somewhere behind the scenes, they changed my vote to the blue team or vice versa. With the blockchain and smart contracts, you can then potentially create this capability of checking, okay, so Harith is going to a poll booth and it's all done electronically. We'll check if, okay, so Harith is registered to vote. He is above 21. He hasn't gotten any sort of criminal activities that won't allow him to vote. And very importantly, for this election, he hasn't been voted anywhere else or voted before this occasion. Only if these conditions are met, then Harith's vote gets accepted and it's put onto the blockchain. So that's the if-then function. Because it's on the blockchain, then I can check. I can go to a block explorer and I can see that, oh, so this account that represents me, the vote was for this blue team. And I can see that it's actually showing blue and not showing red. So I can go back and feel much more comfortable that my vote hasn't been tampered with by a centralized third party. So disregarding the blue and red, but that's the potential capability of what smart contracts can do on the blockchain. Just a quick note, there isn't actually a live, reliable implementation of blockchain for voting or elections, but that's one potential use case for it. A very popular use case that has actually been done is what's called an ICO, or initial coin offering. So for those of you who are not familiar, it's a way for people to raise funds for their startup or project, and they can do it very easily without having to go through the sort of typical lengthy steps that an IPO or initial public offering that a typical company would have to do. In the last few years, we've seen that most of them are probably scams. And even out of those who are not, most of them will probably fail just because they're startups doing things that are completely new. And you can see the chart. This is a chart of a typical cryptocurrency that was created from an ICO. You can see how it got to a high, and after that it's dropped like way lower than its peak. I'm not going to touch about the how to make money or that element of an ICO, but what ICOs actually allow you to do is the technology allows you to potentially invest in the next Google or Alibaba, where without this smart contract or ICO technology, if you are a normal person in Malaysia, you're not some well-connected VC in Silicon Valley or Beijing or Shanghai, then you won't even have the opportunity to go into that sale. But with this ICO technology, it's created the potential for you to buy into a project at its very early stage from anywhere in the world and from even small amounts. So you as an investor are able to invest in a potentially world-changing project.
Okay, Harry, I would like to add as well. There are a lot of study, you were touching about election, how to prevent all those blackout thing. Okay, there are a lot of studies saying that Ethereum per se, the project of Ethereum per se, it can also help to basically secure e-voting, like what Malaysian governments are basically working towards that as well, and digital asset being accepted within Malaysia community. So can I say that this is all a fundamental facts, a fundamental point saying that look, Ethereum is there. These are the projects. If it's acceptable out there, it could be acceptable in Malaysia. So if it's acceptable in Malaysia, and if everything is moving towards electronic, so Ethereum can be something that we want to look at for the future. So is it fair for me to say it's a very strong fundamental point to look at for Ethereum?
Yeah. I mean, and to be clear, I'm saying this as someone who works in the Ethereum space. So I have potentially my own biases, but if you understand what the technology can do, it's not really a question of what can Ethereum do for us Malaysians. It's more a question of everyone else out there in the world will be using the Ethereum technology to power a lot of applications. And if we don't do that as well, we will be one of those countries left behind. That is, in my mind, that is a given, a fact. So it's one of the reasons why I am passionately trying to get people to join the Ethereum space, not really to make money for me personally, but so that we all can learn and then we can show that Malaysians are also up to date with this technology, and we can show the world that Malaysians are capable of making powerful things as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So going back
it's just that I wanted to share about that earlier.
Yeah. Thanks. So going back to the example I was talking about, it's not just you as an investor too. It can also be you as an entrepreneur, maybe in Malaysia, in some kampung, let's say small kampung in Pahang or Kelantan somewhere, and where typically you don't have access to a lot of funds. Like if you want to build a company and you want to raise funds for it, if you don't have a network in Silicon Valley or Beijing, it's hard for you to get that that funds you need to build your world-changing project. But with ICO, all you need to do is create a website, create the smart contract for the ICO, and then you'll be able to raise millions of dollars from the whole world. And I can speak not just on theoretical terms, but also from my own personal experience, because I was someone who tried to use equity crowdfunding, which is a fully licensed method for fundraising in Malaysia. I tried to invest in a company and buy shares, but because I had to use the normal financial system, I had to deposit into this Maybank account that they showed me, and I did that. And I thought I was okay. But one day later, they emailed me and said that, oh, sorry, by the time you came in, it was already late. It was already like oversubscribed. And so your money didn't come in time. And so we'll have to refund you and you won't get your shares. And you know, that sucks. I didn't get to buy the shares, but it's not that bad. At least I get refund. But then I find out that that money doesn't come back to me immediately. And I wait and I wait and I wait. And it took me, I think, a month before that money actually gets returned to my bank account. And if it wasn't because equity crowdfunding is fully licensed and the company is like regulated, I would have been freaking out by the fact that my money is disappeared out there somewhere and it's not in my account. It creates a lot of fear and uncertainty for me as a user. If you contrast with the user experience of an ICO and smart contracts, if I were to put Ethereum, transfer Ethereum into the smart contract so that I get a token that I'm buying for the ICO, that can be done automatically. So the smart contract will check that, okay, so Harith is whitelisted, he's done his KYC, his amount is sufficient for us, maybe a bit higher than our maximum cap. So what we'll do is we'll give him the tokens that he bought, and the leftover, it will be given to him automatically by the contract. No human involvement, no third party that has to check that the amounts are working correctly and going to the right place. It's done automatically by the contract. And so I will get back my money within seconds or minutes at worst. So that just goes to show that the technology is much more powerful than what currently exists. And even if the ICO as we currently know it is full of scams, but if you focus on the technology and what it can do, that's what is an example of how powerful Ethereum has been. So just to show some numbers, to put it into numbers, so just in 2020 alone, sorry, this is at 2019, of projects that were launching in 2020, they've raised in the hundreds of millions or even more than $1 billion in Telegram's case. And so that potential of you creating a company and fundraising, you get options to raise funds from anywhere in the world and you're not restricted to just your local market anymore. So I'm going to go through a bunch of use cases because I feel like for the non-technical crowd, it's way easier just to be able to see the different uses of what smart contracts can do. So the second example I'm using is a decentralized autonomous organization, or a DAO. It's another fancy sounding word, but if you can imagine how there's Uber and Grab, and they are, letting passengers be driven by cars, and there's talk about how, they want to experiment or they want to explore doing driverless cars where the car has no driver and is just like driving you without a human needing to be there to drive the passenger around. The DAO idea takes that one step further from just driverless cars, but to make it a humanless company. So imagine if Uber didn't have people running it, but it was all run by a bunch of programming code, such that not only is a car driverless, but it also knows that when you come in and you make a payment, it's done automatically via a contract. And after it's sent you to your destination, it knows that it needs to have maintenance because it's been a month since it's done that. it will tell itself to go drive to the nearest workshop and have it repaired, and it will pay the workshop automatically again via the code, via the smart contract. So the DAO is a very ambitious idea, currently not anywhere near that level, but what Ethereum has done is it unlocks that possibility that as people continue to work on this technology, we will be able to feasibly create a company that isn't even run by humans at all, and it's just run by pieces of code.
Yeah. All right. There's a question from Ernest here, Hari. Why Ethereum is moving from proof of work to proof of stake token in Ethereum 2.0?
Okay, that's a very good question. I will answer that a bit later. It's not really covered in this, like in the slides themselves, because I wanted to go very basic. But remind me, I'll cover that after I finish these other topics.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so another use case is a stable coin. So I'm sure some of you at least would have been familiar with USDT and DAI and USDC. And the case is that if you use Bitcoin or Ethereum, they're both very volatile. So if you want to transfer it to your cousin who is living overseas, if you transfer it today, you don't know by the time they receive it, the value might have dropped like significantly. So a stable coin is something that's pegged to another currency, typically the US dollar. And what Ethereum has done is it's allowed for something that's called an algorithmic stablecoin. So a stablecoin that's not backed by any US dollars in a bank account. It's backed by cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum and fully automatically on the blockchain. There's no human involvement in this creation of a stablecoin. And a side topic, another stablecoin is the Libra, and a Libra, which is created by Facebook or Facebook's stablecoin, is an example of a permissioned blockchain where it's a blockchain, but it's not fully open to public. The people who can see the details are only the sort of the different sub entities that's within the network, so that you don't necessarily aren't able to check things without having to trust anyone. But as long as you trust that all these companies are not conspiring against you, then you can trust that the network is working well. Another use case is community currency. So one project called Grassroots Economics have created a currency called the Sarafu in Kenya, where charity that's given to that community isn't kind of like thrown away to buy, you know, food or items and then it leaves the community. Is used as a reserve to create their own community currency, and by doing that, it encourages more transactions within the community, so that the impact of that donation gets multiplied 4 or 5 times. Yep. Another example is Reddit, which is another popular online forum. They've started experimenting to create their own community currency, so that you can earn money from doing things on a subreddit that is useful for the subreddit. Another case is a personal token. So this is an actual NBA player who raised 150,000 US dollars by selling a bond on his NBA salary. So essentially it's a bond, but it's done on a person and not as a company, and in a way simpler method than a typical conventional finance bond. A cool thing for me personally, because I came from the insurance field, there is this thing called a parametric insurance. So if you can imagine insurance that covers you when a hurricane hits. A problem when it comes to the normal world insurance is that by the time the hurricane has hit your house, you might already be dead, or suffered massive damages already, and it's not very useful for you and your family if the money that you get from the insurance comes after the hurricane has devastated your local area. But with satellite technology, we can tell with very high confidence when a hurricane is almost about to hit a location. And if you then have that confidence, and if you then know that a hurricane is about to hit your place, if you use parametric insurance, the insurance pays money out to you before the event happens. So before the hurricane hits your house, you get the insurance money. You can then take that money, buy fuel or buy necessary items so that you can move your family to a safe place and then not be destroyed by the hurricane. With normal finance, it's not possible because by the time the insurance company needs to check that if this is done correctly, it's being sent to the right party, there's no fraud. By the time that money travels to you, it's way too late, and you've already suffered loss. But because smart contracts does things automatically without human involvement, even if it's across countries, they can get the money in your hands very, very quickly, and you can save yourself and your family instead of getting the money only after you've died. Another last one, I want to make sure I do address some of the questions raised, but I love this example because maybe this is an example that's counter to tokenize, but when I mentioned an example earlier of how exchanges are people that you trust to hold your money for you, with Ethereum, what's possible is a decentralized exchange where you can use an exchange and they never hold your money. Like when you want to make a trade, you give your Ethereum and immediately you get back the token that you're buying. So there's no risk, there's no counterparty risk of your money being lost by the party that's holding it. You never have to trust any human being to hold your money. You get it back and it's done automatically. And this particular example I'm showing called Uniswap, the even more powerful nature of it is that the website itself is decentralized because, and this literally did happen where because the founders of this project were from the US, and the US government wanted them to block Iranians from using their website. So they had to follow because they didn't want to go to jail. So they blocked Iranians from or connections from Iran, IP addresses from Iran to use their website. But because in the background, what's actually doing the transactions is the smart contract. So even though this website is blocked, but the smart contract isn't. And so other people went and create a mirror of this Uniswap website, which looks exactly the same, and they point to the same smart contract. So if I was in Iran, I just had to go to this other website that has a different URL, but looks exactly the same, works exactly the same, and points to the same smart contract to do the actual transaction. So even if the website gets blocked, you can use other websites to point to the same smart contract and still be able to use the service. And that's something in my mind that has never been done. And if you imagine the possibility of doing that, not just for exchanges, but for any kinds of service out there where even if it's censored, even if the government is being, let's say, unfair or being unjust and blocking you from doing certain things, you can get around it in a decentralized way. So yeah, so those are some use cases. This is just to show the boundless amounts of users for Ethereum. And this is just within the decentralized finance or DeFi world. And there's a lot of other use cases that's not even shown here. And each of these are creating their own unique uses that either currently or potentially will disrupt how things are done in the normal world. So in short, if you can think of Bitcoin as decentralized money, Ethereum is decentralized applications where you can combine that ability to create apps on a smartphone with the fact that there is no central body that decides what is allowed to be created. It can also be thought of as programmable money, whereas Bitcoin is just money that you can move around. Ethereum, you can program it, you can automate a lot of things to be done when a condition is met, you do this action, and when another condition is met, you do another action. And it can go on a chain that's endless. My personal description I like to use is unstoppable application. So like the Uniswap example, it's even if governments or other people want to stop you from doing certain things, it's unstoppable because there are other entities within the network who will be able to make sure it happens. Very quick run through. Not sure how much time I have. Just want to make sure I manage to finish this and answer questions. So some examples of companies and communities. So companies is Etherscan, where I work. So we're the block explorer for Ethereum. We're the leading one in the world. And even before I joined Etherscan, I like to point it as an example of how Malaysians can also do something that is used by the whole world. And so I'm very proud of Etherscan. CoinGecko similarly is a small company, but is used by millions of people around the world every month. And they are used as a sort of data aggregator. So imagine if you were to use the Bursa Malaysia website to see the stock prices and the volumes and statistics like that. CoinGecko provides that for thousands of cryptocurrencies. Hello Gold is a company that allows you to buy and sell gold. They have been working on a blockchain backend because if you don't trust that they are holding the gold in their vaults, because they might be faking it, then by having a blockchain and having a permission blockchain where the parties involved are people like Bank Negara or Securities Commission, and even if you don't trust Hello Gold, but you trust that these other entities are going to make sure that they don't run away with your money, then you'll have more confidence that the gold actually exists. Neuroware is a company that has worked on multiple blockchain projects, one of them being a project caster with the Securities Commission to make it to use blockchain technology in the sort of normal investment world. Blockclimb is a company that has focused a lot on education, on like how to create smart contracts and things like that. Luxtag is a company that allows you to sort of tag your products to make sure that they're legit. So for example, your Prada bag, if you want to know that it's a real Prada bag and not some fake ripoff, then they're using blockchain technology to help ensure that you as a user can be confident that your product is the real one and not a fake one. Some communities, so I mentioned Ethereum Malaysia that I organize. So we run monthly meetups, usually on the first Thursday of the month. Our focus is more on the technology and application of Ethereum, especially, not so much on trading. Bitcoin Malaysia is a Facebook group with more than 50,000 members. And yeah, so there's a lot of kinds of talk that go in there. There's a Telegram group called the G1 group, which is highly curated by some of the members are some of the biggest whales in Malaysia. So if you want to be highly connected with that crowd, that's a good place to try and get into. Access Malaysia is an organization that represents crypto community, including companies, so that we can then, as a group, go and talk to people like banks, like regulators, and just have a representation of the community. Asia Blockchain Review has done a lot of events, especially with universities. They also have a magazine, so that's they have a presence in Malaysia. And Blockchain Embassy Asia is another organization that represents different groups, including corporations like Maybank, and it's just to discuss how they can use blockchain for their own products and services. A quick note on a culture, and this is more of a personal observation based on a few years being in the space. One thing, if you are newly joining and you want to learn more, a good thing to note is that there are broadly 3 different types of people. There are the shills, essentially people who will be shilling you, selling you their this ICO or that token, usually because they have a lot of that coin themselves, and so they want to make sure that their investment grows in value. So you want to take their words with a pinch of salt, because they'll say a lot of things which may or may not be accurate, just because it can help. If you buy the coin, it helps increase their value. There is the intransigent group, which is people who are very rigid, who wants to like, and usually it's people who are attached to Bitcoin because they want to make sure that Bitcoin is very, you don't take any chances with Bitcoin. Don't try too many new things because when you try new things, things might break. And if they break, then it affects Bitcoin's value as money. So if you talk to people like that and you talk about, yeah, I want to try this new experimental thing, this new DeFi project, then they will likely tell you that it's a scam or useless. And so you want to also take that with a pinch of salt. Then there is the last group, which is the people who are very experimental, who want to try and create new things. It's good because you get to try things that have never existed before. But there's also a risk that when they try new things, they may end up doing it wrong. And so, for example, a lot of these people are on Ethereum. And if they do it on Ethereum, it may impact Ethereum's value or price because they see that, you know, something bad happened and let's say money disappeared or got hacked. So three things to take note, three groups to take note of when you talk to other people, because a lot of times people may give you differing opinions, and a lot of it is because they are largely from within three of these separate groups, and so they have different perspectives and opinions. So last, I promise, last main item is the so what, like why this matters to you. So first is that it's a potentially world-defining technology. We've already seen use cases, and it's still in a very early stage. The potential to do much more is still out there in the coming years. And if you join this space early on, you are one of the sort of earliest people to be in the space and potentially gain benefit either from a portfolio value or from a knowledge that you can share with others before maybe 99% of the world. It is also an investment. It's an extremely high risk investment. So my personal advice is never to put in any amount of money that you can't afford to lose. Never leverage, never take a loan because the value of whatever Bitcoin or Ethereum can still go down by a lot and you won't be able to pay off your loan. And you want to know how this impacts your current industry. If any form of trust minimized transactions can help. If you're in the, say, supply chain world, if you're in the sort of reputation world in universities, how stuff like this can potentially impact your industry. You want to get ahead of everyone else and understand it so that when things happen, you can adapt very quickly. And fourthly is a call to action. When people think about the internet now, they see it's fully decentralized, that everyone can go to the internet and it's a shared internet with the whole world. But 20, 30, maybe 30 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. There were a bunch of these internet explorers that were closed off. You have your AOL and you have other companies, and it's not shared. And a lot of that power is held within these big companies. And so it's only from the effort, the open source effort of the community worldwide that we now, as human beings, get to use the internet and have it shared across the entire world and not in these walled gardens that's protected by their owners. That similar, I don't want to say battle, but similar kind of trend is happening where there are people who want to own a large sort of spaces of the blockchain for themselves. You can see Facebook is wanting to create a stable coin between them and only the companies that's within their circle, and other companies that are doing, or even governments that are doing something similar. And it's only from the effort of us as the normal people to fight for a blockchain that is truly decentralized, and only by all of us contributing can we create a truly decentralized blockchain for everyone. So regardless of whether you are a programmer or you have experience with product, you come from industry or you're an academic or regulator, all of us can play a hand in helping this baby of a technology grow to fulfill its potential. And so the call to action is to join Ethereum Malaysia, which I run. Join the meetup, learn from us, share your knowledge, potentially meet projects from around the world when they visit Malaysia, and gain the knowledge so that you can help the community. And what I'm personally looking forward to be able to do with other people in the local community is that if we can create open source projects where you can contribute in any form, whether it's design, legal, programming, to create a project that isn't owned by anyone, it's owned by the community, and it can create real value for the whole world, so that we can tell the world that Malaysians are also doing things that are cool and useful, and so we can all be proud of each other. And by participating in these projects, what you potentially can do, let's say if you're a student or a recent graduate, you can put it on your social media. You can put it on your GitHub or your LinkedIn accounts. And there are companies around the world who pay thousands of dollars for people who are talented in the space. And a lot of them accept work remotely. They are looking for people to hire. One of our community members actually runs a website called Crypto Jobs List, which has probably hundreds of crypto companies at any one point in time who are looking to hire crypto people, not just programmers, but also people, non-technical people who can contribute in things like community or legal factors. And potentially we could even be an incubator as a community. We can help each other highlight if you want to create your own project, your own company. We can give you the feedback and test the product and potentially connect you with fund investors who can fund your project as well. So yeah, so that's what I'd love for us as a community to be able to do. So before I end and go to Q&A, just a review of what I covered. There's the preamble of money and decentralization. There's certain common features of blockchain. There's Ethereum and how it's different with smart contracts. There's companies, communities, and the so what. So if you want to go further down the rabbit hole, you can explore any of these topics. There's many, many more, but these are some that can help point you to get new knowledge and go further down the rabbit holes. And I think, yeah, okay, the only other slide I have is feedback. So if you have a mobile phone with you right now, you can scan the QR code and it will point you to a survey. Please feel free to give any honest, even brutal feedback as to the talk and how it can be improved, so that other people who are listening to this talk in the future can benefit from a better one. And you can also enter this bit.ly link in your browser if you don't have a QR code scanner. So yeah, that's the end of the talk itself. I'm just gonna keep it up here so you can scan. And yeah, so happy to answer questions.
Okay, cool. Back to Mr. Ernest's question earlier about the proof of work and the proof of stake from token in Ethereum 2.0.
Yeah, okay, so that's a very large topic. I'll just cover it very broadly. So the common complaint against proof of work is that it's environmentally not friendly. There's a lot of electricity that gets burned to secure proof of work. Proof of stake is also more, the word for it is equitable, because if you're familiar with miners in proof of work, what's happened is that only a small number of miners control the majority of hash power or ability to mine. So I think for Bitcoin, it's maybe like 3 or 4 miners hold more than 50%. And so it increases the risk of like these 3 or 4 people conspiring with each other to take advantage of everyone else. Whereas with proof of stake, or at least the way Ethereum is doing it, it allows even normal people like you and me who have a computer connection to stake an amount of Ether, and we are also able to secure the network, to help validate the network. So you are not restricting yourselves to just like a few large entities in a specific geographical location. Anyone in the world can contribute to actually making a difference and helping Ethereum secure itself. There's many other factors, but I think those two are largely the sort of common reasons given.
All right, cool. So pretty clear explanation on that. And we have one from Kuma as well. Is Etherscan from Malaysia?
Yes, so it's a company based out of Shah Alam. A lot of people, even in the crypto space, don't know that, but yes, it is. It's the founders Malaysian. The team is almost majority Malaysian. It's a Malaysian company, and I think it's something to be proud of if you're Malaysian.
Pretty much, I know we are proud as well having you guys in our webinar session today. Just another point where we were discussing earlier, Harit, regarding the the scam going on with Vitalik, YouTube link, everything. I hope you'll be able to give them some advice on this webinar session.
Yeah, so actually, so Sir mentioned it to me earlier. So a lot of times when it's either YouTube or Twitter or any of these online advertisements, if you see someone telling you, the advertisement telling you that, if you sign up, you'll get free Ethereum or free Bitcoin or whatever, probably almost 100% chance is a scam. So never trust it. The best way, if you want to know what the real person is saying, is you go to their online page. So for example, if it's Vitalik Buterin, you go to his Twitter account or his personal blog and you see what he says there. And practically never will he say things like win 10 Ether or whatever. Another resource that is very useful is you can go to ethereum.org that I'm showing on my screen here. There's a lot of resources you can go from here if it's Ethereum specific. If you're a programmer, you can check here. If you're just like a non-technical person, you can check a lot of these different pages. There's even an Ethereum community where you can see like online forums, chat rooms, Twitter accounts, and just to shield myself, you can even see like meetup groups around the world. And if I scroll down, so you can click. You can go to the Ethereum Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur, and if you open it up, actually I have it here, you'll see this meetup group that I helped to organize. So you can join us, and a bunch of us can help share if you have any questions, whether programming or otherwise. We can help validate certain things. So all you have to do is join the group. If you've joined, then whenever I create a new event, you will see the notification show up on your email. So those are good ways to help prevent yourself from being scammed.
So due to time constraints, I will just take one question here from Kumar as well. There's another question where many smart contracts projects are here now on Matrix system. Is it good to educate people to earn through these? And as an early adaptation to cryptocurrency and blockchain as well?
Sorry, can you clarify what a matrix system is? I'm not very familiar.
Yeah, Kumar, probably can you help to elaborate further? Many smart contracts project are here now on matrix system. So that was a question raised, but Kumar, is it possible for you to elaborate further?
Yeah, without knowing more, when I hear words like that, and it might be me jumping to conclusions, but when I hear like jargon type of words, my mind immediately goes to potential scam. So I'll be very careful to like take their words very carefully. So if you can explain, that will be very helpful for me. Maybe it's just something I'm not aware of. But
it's something similar to more like networking, as what Kumar is explaining here.
Okay. So by networking, do you mean something like you have an MLM structure where you can refer people and earn rewards? Depends what you mean by networking. But if it's that definition, then my flag gets a bit higher. If it's any system where you refer people and you get more rewards, or if they like promise a certain return, generally that's what I would avoid. I'm very hesitant to call things words like scam, but yeah, I would be very cautious. But more importantly, I'll just want to know more about what that project does.
Yeah, probably. I will suggest Kumar to get in touch with you guys through the meetup space that you guys have
Yeah,
created.
sure.
So
Yep.
it's something you good for you, Kumar, to basically connect with them through the meetup. All right.
Yeah,
So
and
any other questions beside whatever has been raised earlier and towards Harit as well? Feel free to ask. So we still have 10 minutes more in the room. So yeah, any other questions, guys?
I was gonna add to for Kumar just now, like there is definitely a chance that it's just something I'm not aware of, because there are so many things that are always so many new things that are always happening in the space. So I'd
Definitely.
love
Yeah.
to learn more. Yeah, so going through the meetup helps because we can all validate. Like the more people there are to validate each other, the higher chances that we get the good quality things and we prevent the bad quality stuff.
All right. I think so far everyone is pretty clear. All right. Thank you for your time, Harit. Thank you for your time. It's pretty much very interesting and very knowledgeable sharing for today's webinar session. So we hope to work together more often. To build the community, as what you're saying, to build the community, and we are proud to work with Malaysian startup as well, Malaysian community as well. So yeah, I'll say it's an honor and privilege for us to have you guys in today's webinar session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right. Okay, guys, if there's nothing else, I'll say thank you for joining in. Thank you for your time. And feel free to drop the feedback for Harit through the QR code. And don't forget to join our Ethereum Guess the Price campaign as well. So all the terms and condition is in the Facebook. You feel free to check it out, and everything's there. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you again, Harit.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right, good night.